What's up guys, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a full song, a full jam, directly on the Korg Electribe 2. I'm going to be showing you techniques very specific to the Electribe on how to generate excitement within a song and how to actually set that up on a technical level, as well as some techniques for taking a relatively simple musical idea and stretching it out to a 2 or 3 minute song. The loop that I'll be fleshing out into a full song in this video is actually something that I made from scratch on camera last week. So if you'd like to see the video of me making that from scratch, you can click the link in the description. But for now, let's get into making the full track. All right, so I've got the Electribe here with my session pulled up. Bear in mind that I haven't really done a whole lot of mixing on this. That I decided to do in post in Reaper, but this should be enough for demonstration purposes. So here's kind of the basis of everything. And then I've got a few tracks that I can unmute. And most importantly, this one right here. So that's the full version of the musical idea. That's what we're building towards. And that's the first tip right off the bat, is to layer enough to where you can have multiple sections, even if it's only one loop, so to speak. When you've got a basis like this, that can hold its interest for a little while, and then there's a ton you can build on that with every element added, building up the energy level. So you drop in more percussion. That takes the energy level up a notch. You bring in the ARP. Also builds the energy level up a notch. You bring in the pads. And then what I can do is drop all this percussive stuff out. Introduce that main melody and then start building up the energy again. So maybe bring in just, say, the kick and the sub. So that's the first tool of arrangement right there, the mute button, and using it to bring up the energy level every time you introduce a new track. Another tool we can use is the Chaos pad here, the little mini Master Effects Chaos pad. So I've got this set to Master Effects, and if you shift and click one of these, you can scroll through this menu and go to your Master Effects type. Right now, I want to set it to an EQ, specifically a high pass filter. So it's going to cut the low end and allow us to do stuff like this. It gets a little bit painful up here, so use with caution, but you get the idea. This is great for transitions. Another one that's great for transitions is the master delay. I've used that in the past, but this is a bit of a cleaner way to do it. So say you've got a section of the song like this, and you're getting ready to drop in the snare and the hi-hats to build you into a sort of drop. So what you can do, play it out like this. And removing all that low end creates an effect of getting your ears briefly used to hearing everything without bass, so when you drop the bass back in, it's that much more powerful. And then of course it also just mimics a classic electronic music build. So the Chaos pad, another useful arrangement tool, especially for transitioning between sections. A third super useful arrangement tool is the filter. And there's a little hack for accessing it without interrupting the song, because if you have trigger set up and you select a sound, it'll trigger the sound, so you know which one it is you're selecting. That's great, except for if you're in the middle of a jam, that can be an annoying little sound that you obviously want to avoid. So the way to do that is to hold down trigger and then select a sound, and it won't trigger that sound. It'll select that sound, so you can then modify it by twiddling these knobs, but it won't actually make a sound when you select it. So same in this section here, bass line, full drums, and this ARP and this pad. What I would do in this case is not necessarily introduce these all at once right away. So let's go on to this ARP here, what I would probably actually do is filter it down. In this case, the filter cutoff is already as low as it'll go, so I'll change this knob instead to control the shape of that filter movement. Basically, the more I turn it this way, the more it clamps down, and the quicker the high cut filter clamps down on the ARP sound. And then if I turn it this way, it gives the filter more time to remain open. So maybe I'll have it down here to where the ARP is pretty much inaudible. And then change how filtered the ARP is over time. And you could even have it build up, build up, build up, and then drop back down a bit, and incrementally build it up until it's all the way here. Same deal with the pad. If I'm in the middle of an arrangement, hold down trigger, select that, and then start moving the filter. That's obviously a bit much, but hopefully you get the idea. Filter movement is a really important tool in the electronic music producer's toolbox for arranging songs, and this is how I would approach it on the Electribe. Saves the session with a bunch of the elements that you want to bring in gradually, filtered way down, maybe even until they're completely inaudible, and then slowly bring it in using one of these two knobs. All right, so the fourth technique I want to talk about is using the session changes to create drastic changes in your arrangement. And I'm actually going to use a different song for this because this is a good example. So I've got this full section here. And I've got this session here. And that's a pretty drastically different section. This is a bit of a drop, this is a bit of a chorus, if that makes sense. What's great about the Electribe is that if you change sessions while everything it's playing, it'll let the previous one finish before it starts the next one right on the dot. So the effect it has is that you can seamlessly change between sessions, thereby creating massive changes in your arrangement. So check this out. So I can kind of do this whenever I want. I've changed it now, and all I have to do is just sit back and wait. And there you have it. So I use this if I want to drop into a completely different section, or if I just want to have a drastic change, like a bunch of instruments all drop out at once, or a bunch of instruments come in at once, basically more than I could do by physically hitting a bunch of mute buttons, or if I want the filter state of a bunch of instruments to change all at the same time as well. So all that being said, let me actually do a jam here and demonstrate some of the stuff I've been talking about. So to set this up, I'm going to mute a bunch of stuff. I'm going to filter a bunch of stuff down. Then mute that as well. Same deal with the ARP. Same with this pad. So now everything is muted that I wanted to mute, so let's go into the intro. Also, if I want to, which I do, I can go ahead and start with a bunch of low-end cut on the intro as well. Let that go. So I've just brought in the sub here and the snare. Can provide a little extra movement here if I'm feeling fancy. Now I need a major change. So I brought in the ARP. I messed that up a little bit, but you get the idea. Unmute this guy as well. So at this point, you've gone up several energy levels. All of my drums are in. I've got my ARP and my pad here, and they're all nice and apparent. And at this point, I'm ready for a breakdown. So I would actually switch this to the next session file, which I would have set up with everything muted, all this stuff filtered down again, with the exception of this little melody brought in. So something like this. And then from there, I would probably change the session one more time to go to one where everything drops in all at once and smooth that transition using the master effects. And now, once everything is dropped in, I can let everything build up a ton, use filter movement to build it to an energy peak, a crescendo, and then start to drop stuff back down, either by switching back to the session that I used as my intro, or by muting stuff and then gradually filtering it back down. And then mute a couple of patches. And then maybe build one more thing back up at the very end. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, if you'd like to check out the making of that song from scratch on the Electribe, you can click or tap up over here somewhere. And this song is going to be on an EP that I'll be dropping this Friday. So if that's out by the time you're watching this, you can click or tap down over here or subscribe to make sure you see that when it drops. Peace.